What's up, it's Jan, back at it again with another nerdy bookish video. This is gonna be my top 10 of 2024. But also not really, because I have 9 runner-ups. I think I'm also gonna talk about my most surprising, but I'm just gonna like fly through them. Let's just start with the most surprising, and then we'll do the runner-ups, and then we'll do the final top. Ew, there's like a hair. Final top 10, and then as my Carmilla, aka my top tier of Patreon, exclusive video for January, we're gonna feature Joey's top 10. Joey's my boyfriend if you're new here. His top 10 books as well. Over there, it'll be like the extended cut version of my top 10. So, most surprising, Love in the Time of Serial Killers by Alicia Thompson. This one I read for my Do Your Worst episode featuring Noelle from Noelle 7 Pages. I just always thought this was gonna be like a mediocre 3-star book, but I gave it 4 stars and actually really enjoyed it and related a lot to the main character. Maggie's Grave by David Sodergren, which is Joey's book. I'm too lazy to grab all these books. It was hard enough grabbing the 19 other ones, okay? I actually have more than 9 runner-ups because one of them's from the library, one of them I couldn't find. Anyway, Maggie's Grave, I gave 5 stars. I was surprised by it because when Joey read it, he said that there was a lot of baby stuff and it kind of reminded him of Barbarian, and I didn't like the themes of Barbarian, the movie, but I really enjoyed the vibes. It was very Fear Street type of vibes. Super witchy if you're looking for a short witchy book, but like old time witchiness, not modern day witchiness, if that makes sense. And it was wild, and I can't wait to read more David Sodergren. The Couple Next Door by Sherry Lapina, I think is how you say that author's name. I know so many people who hate this book. I read it for another Do Your Worst episode. I picked it up on a whim and I loved it. I think I gave it 4 stars. I was shook by the twists. I enjoyed the audiobook. I saw negative reviews and heard there was a lot of like baby talk because the baby gets kidnapped while the couple goes next door for a party or whatever. Even though I predicted a twist or two, I was still along for the ride and I flew through that audiobook. Lastly, we have the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, the whole trilogy. The prequel was 2 stars, but the whole trilogy by Holly Jackson, 5 stars all the way through. I was so shocked because I am not a huge fan of YA thrillers and I thought I was kind of over them, but again, I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder for a Do Your Worst episode for Sid's episode and loved it, gave it 5 stars, and then that is probably the fastest I've ever read a series all the way through, other than Folk of the Air, which I read for a vlog in 1 weekend. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder I read like all in a month, and I love the audiobooks, and I was shocked by a lot of the twists, and it's a lot darker than a lot of YA books I've read. I like the turn it takes by the end. Those are my most surprising books. Alright, the runner-ups. The one from the library that I don't have a copy of is Open Throat. Henry Hoke is the author. This is a short little novella told from the perspective of a queer mountain lion who lives under the Hollywood sign. It was just such a unique concept because I don't think I've ever read a whole book from the perspective of an animal before. There's like Last House on Needless Street where there are chapters from the perspective of a cat, and there's like talking animals and, you know, like the X-Hex and stuff like that, but a whole book from the perspective of an animal, I don't recall if I've ever read one. So it was new to me, and the writing was really good. There was a lot of vignette type of moments. You just really get in the head of this animal who observes all these hikers who hike the Hollywood sign. The way it was written was just brilliant. So highly recommend Open Throat, especially if you're looking for a quick, fun read. And then the other one that I can't find is a non-fiction book. I don't remember which shelf I put it in, but it's Women Don't Owe You Pretty. I bought this book immediately after I listened to the audiobook. It hit really hard in 2024, especially because it was the year that I learned to set more boundaries for myself for the internet. It talked a lot about that. It talked about relationships and self-love and just being a woman and society in general, and it was just so good. And it was just a lot of reminders that I definitely needed to hear at that moment. I got a physical copy because there are like illustrations that are gorgeous all throughout. The whole thing's in color, and I want to annotate and reread for sure. Okay, let's get into the books I have physically. The book I read the earliest in the year that I remember being like, yeah, this is going to be on my top 10 for sure. It didn't make it into my top 10. The book in question is Feybound by Sarah L. Arifi. I remember being obsessed and would not shut up about this book. I like refused to leave Barnes & Noble until I found this book, and it was released early. I saw it on a bookseller's cart and it was like at the bottom, and I saw the spine. I was like, I know that spine. I was like, hey, can I get one of those books? I know it doesn't come out till tomorrow, but like I need it now. So that was a moment for sure. I was freaking out. There was a sapphic romance, there's fae. It was just easy to understand, easy for me to follow, and that doesn't doesn't happen too often with me. I really like the story of this one. Next we have Better by Far by Hazel Hayes. Hazel Hayes is the most underrated author in my opinion that I have had all-time favorites from. She also wrote Out of Love, which I love. Better by Far was so heartbreaking and relatable. Like, look how many tabs. It's about this couple who broke up, but they still have to live together and finish off their lease or whatever, and they're just like trying to figure things out. The ending caught me off guard, but I love the character growth in this book and just learning how to navigate life without this person that you didn't realize you were settling for years. A story about love and loss, hope and heartbreak, and the healing to be found in life's little limbos. I love that. Those in-between spaces where you're no longer who you were and not yet the person you will be. I just love that. Hazel Hayes' writing is just, there's something about it that's so addictive and relatable. So yeah, definitely read either one of her books if you haven't already. Next we have An Excellent Host by Chelsea G. Summers. It's so short. It's a short story. Chelsea G. Summers wrote A Certain Hunger, if you didn't know. Thank you to my patron Destiny for getting me this book, sending it to me, because this was an indie bookstore day exclusive and it sold out like everywhere that I was looking. All my orders that I placed got canceled because they sold out while I was placing the order or something. This is basically a female revenge story and I don't want to say too much because it is so short, but highly recommend if you can get your hands on this one. If not, A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers is always a book I will recommend. Next we have another shorty patorti called Because You're Mine by Christopher Triana. This is a horror romance. This is actually Joey's book, but he let me read it first. It's a story about two fucked up people who get together and commit crimes, kind of. Yeah, for sure. They're definitely crimes. It gets disturbing really fast. It's about this elderly, sick mother that the son is taking care of, and then there's a nurse who's gonna take care of her too. Take care of, do with that information what you will. Next we have Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Huang. I don't know why this took me so long to finish. I remember starting this in January and not finishing it until like March, I think, but I love the ending to this book. I love the twist, the writing, so good. It focuses on American beauty standards versus Asian beauty standards and just beauty in general and preserving youth and how fucked up beauty industries could be, because this girl works for this skincare company and there's something off about it. It also talks about grief because there is the death of a parent and stuff. So next we have I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel. This was so close to making it to my top 10 because it is a story about obsession and there were so many relatable moments in this. This is definitely one I'll reread a lot because it was an easy, fast read. There were a lot of, again, those vignette moments, and it has a lot of commentary about social media as well and how people perceive you, which again hit really hard in 2024 because of what I do for a living in my day job and YouTube and Patreon. There's a lot packed into this little book. This Woven Kingdom by Tahira Mafi. This is the most recent book that I read on this runner-ups list. I am so glad I finally picked this up before the end of the year. This was on my 24 for 2024. I don't think the vlog for this is up yet. I don't think it's gonna be up before this one, but this was like Children of Blood and Bone meets We Hunt the Flame. Those are both 5-star books for me. There's a forbidden romance. It's definitely a slow burn. I didn't realize this was gonna be 4 books, but I have all 3 books now, so I'm excited to continue the series. It was so quick to read. I honestly already need to reread it because I read it so fast. There were so many good quotes as well and character development, and it was an easy fantasy to follow for my BB brain. It's a YA fantasy. It's Persian mythology inspired, and I absolutely love the writing all throughout. Oh yeah, and there's a betrayal. I love a good betrayal. Guillotine by Delilah S. Dawson. This is a fun little cutie that's pitched as Knives Out meets Ready or Not, and I just watched Ready or Not for the first time ever a couple months ago, I think. I really enjoyed it, and I do agree with that comp for sure. This is very much a revenge story on the rich. Just leave it at that. And then lastly on this runner-ups list is Foe by Ian Reid. I love this so much. This story has stuck with me. I love the movie adaptation as well with Paul Mescal. Oh, I love him. There's like a subtlety in this book that I noticed. It kind of gave away the twist, but Ian Reid just has such talent for writing these books that you just cannot stop reading. You cannot put down. This is about this isolated house where this couple lives, and then someone comes to the house and pitches this program. The dude has to travel, leave the farm or whatever. All it says is Henrietta will have company, familiar company. That's all I'm gonna say. It's a psychological thriller, horror horror, and I will read anything Ian Reid writes. Okay, now for the top 10. I did rank them, but I don't know if it's the best ranking I could have done, most accurate, I don't know, but we're just gonna roll with it. Coming in at number 10 is The Hitchcock Hotel by Stephanie Roble. Destiny, again, gifted me this, so thank you so much. It says, here's to another year in the lair. Like, how cute, how cute. This is a thriller I read for a Patreon readathon. I love Alfred Hitchcock's movie The Birds, and I just think he's such an interesting human being, so it was nice to have this ode to him, basically. There are like quotes from him, there are so many references to his movies. I want to watch more of his movies for sure. It's about this Hitchcock-themed hotel that this guy runs, and he opens it and invites 6 of his college friends on opening day, opening weekend or whatever, to stay at this hotel, and all these dark secrets come out from when they were in college, and there's a murder. The twist was predictable, but I did enjoy the villain monologue at the end, and I figured something out about myself and villain monologues and what I like and don't like, so it was a very eye-opening story. But I like the multi-POV. I like that each character was so distinct from one another. Usually when there are characters that are all in the same age, it messes me up sometimes, like it confuses me, but again, they had such distinct qualities and personalities, so this is definitely one I'll reread in the future because it was such a fun time. It was so fast-paced, and I didn't have a physical copy. I read it from the library when I initially read it, so I'm excited to annotate this whenever I get the chance to. Number 9 is My Husband by Maud Ventura. I'm so excited for their next book. I didn't realize they were releasing a new book in 2025 in April until one of my vamps, Nicole, informed me. So thank you, Nicole. But this I picked up on a whim because I opened it up in this bookstore and I was like, this seems like an easy, fast read. And then I look into it and it's an obsession story. There are themes on like love and this like fucked up marriage. Yeah, it delivered on the obsession. An all-consuming passion for her husband. You never know the husband's name, I don't think. And then the epilogue for this is what really got me. It's just so well done, and it's a translated work from French, so if you're looking into reading more translated fiction, there you go. It's so fast-paced, and there are a lot of relatable moments in terms of intrusive thoughts and raw, honest thoughts about loving too hard and being criticized for it. Number 8 is This Is Where We Talk Things Out by Caitlin Marceau. This is a shorty patorti. I read this on a whim on my Kindle. This was gifted to me by Amanda, one of my vampies, so thank you so much. What'd she say? Oh, it was a birthday gift. I hope you have an amazing day and year because no one deserves it more than you. How sweet. Definitely would reread this. My favorite part about this were the relatable quotes about life choices and how you shouldn't let family influence you in how you live your life because it's your life, not theirs. You can take advice from them, you can hear them out, but you do not have to follow what your mom wants for you or whoever wants for you. Like, you know what you want, you fucking get what you want, okay? So there's this toxic mother-daughter relationship. They go on this trip to this isolated setting in the winter, they get snowed in and whatever. It's wild how toxic this relationship is. And then the ending was a little bit predictable, but it was well done nonetheless. There was so much like eeriness in this, the unsettling vibes of this mom acting weird and treating the daughter poorly and all this like regression shit. It's weird, but it's short, so I'm gonna move on before I spoil anything. Another fast-paced book is number 7, which is The Final Scene, a thriller by Steph Nelson. This Twisted Retreat edition is one of the best, prettiest books I own, I swear. Yeah, you could use my code JAN5 for Twisted Retreat if you are interested in getting pretty horror thriller books like this one. The best way to go into this is blindly. I don't want to say too much, but we follow this girl, Brooke. The very first chapter, you see her get kidnapped and put in this situation, and then she meets other people in the same situation, trapped in this project thing where there are rules that they have to abide by. It gets intense. It's disturbing, it's unsettling, it's really fast. The chapters are so short. Really enjoyed this one. And I haven't heard too many people talk about this. I actually heard about this from a girl from Silent Book Club. It's really messed up and it is on Kindle Unlimited if you're interested. All right, now we're gonna take a full 180 and talk about number 6, which is Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. This series changed my life. Like, not to be dramatic or anything, but it changed my life. Not in like, oh my god, there are so many profound quotes and like this resonated with me and whatever. No, it's just, it opened my world to cowboy romances and really solidified my love for small town romances specifically. I never thought I'd get into the cowboys, but this series. This is my favorite in the series so far. I read all of them. I read Lost and Lasted and Done and Dusted. This is my favorite. I just feel like Ava was the most relatable. It talks about like mental health and mental health in men as well. What's his name? Weston? Yeah, Weston. Wes. Yeah, he's a cutie patootie, so really enjoyed this one. If you've been looking into dipping your toe in the cowboy realm, I suggest starting with Lila Sage because they're quick, they're easy, they're fast. If you don't like Done and Dusted or it doesn't seem appealing to you, I say try this one for sure because I like this one more than Done and Dusted. All right, the next two are fantasy. One's an adult, one's YA. Number 5 is We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faizal. I will read anything Hafsa Faizal writes. I still need to read the sequel. One of my goals is to finish series this year. This is just a duology, but I think part of me just doesn't want it to end. Plus the second book is so big and Hafsa Faizal hasn't written another. I already read A Tempest of Tea, so after We Free the Stars, I won't have anything by her for who knows how long. The short chapters in this, oh my god. I cannot believe it took me this long. I've tried starting this book so many times. The first time I recall starting this was back when I lived in Indiana. I was on a stationary bike in my apartment gym and I had this on my phone and I tried reading it on my phone and I was like, there's no way I'm gonna read a fantasy that's almost 500 pages on my phone, no matter how short these chapters are. So I stopped and then I tried it again and I was like, I'm not in the mood for fantasy. And then finally I read it for Noelle's Do Your Worst episode and I gave it 5 stars. These tabs, oh my god, the slow burn in this, the romance, the devastating moments. What was it, like page 86 or something? I cried. This was so good. The plot, the world building, I was able to comprehend everything. This one stuck with me. There's a girl who is disguising herself as a male hunter to help feed her people in her kingdom. Then we follow Nazir too, and that's the love interest, and they go on this journey. He's looking for her and she's just trying to survive and feed her people. People lived because she killed. People died because he lived. This cursed forest. Nazir's the Prince of Death, assassinating those foolish enough to defy his autocratic father, the Sultan. If Zafira is exposed as a girl, all of her achievements will be rejected. If Nazir displays his compassion, his father will punish him in the most brutal of ways. This is enemies to lovers at its core. Like, they're literally trying to kill each other, and I'm not doing it justice. It's so freaking good. If you love YA fantasy and you haven't picked this up yet, this is your sign. I don't know why this is so low in the list, but it's number 4. I think it's just because I can't remember shit from it, other than parts at the beginning when she was still at her school and she did this intense thing, and then the end. I don't really remember the end. I remember some of like the romantic scenes. But anyway, The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I cannot believe I actually finished this book. It took me weeks to finish this. It's so dense and I did need the audiobook by the end to like fully focus, but I really loved every single moment. Oh my god, look. The tabs look so good with this orange. I will be continuing the series. It's so intense. There are so many heart-wrenching moments in this. This is not for the faint of heart for sure. There were some war scenes that I wasn't a fan of because I'm not a war-centric girly. The politics stuff is really hard for me, but R.F. Kuang can do no wrong is what I always say. Top 3, here we go, here we go. I didn't go into The Poppy War too much because I feel like so many people have read that and could do better than me in explaining it. This next one, number 3, is not even out yet. It comes out January 14th, but Book of the Month had it a month early, so we're gonna talk about it. Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. This freaking squeezed her way into my top 10 almost last minute. This is a thriller. This is her best one yet. It's my favorite one. I've read all her books. The twists, the atmosphere. It's the atmosphere for this one because it's in the Scottish Highlands on this island. You have no idea what's going on. There's this missing wife and he starts seeing his wife and you don't know if he's like hallucinating or if it's a ghost or whatever, and he's just trying to write his book on this island in this isolated setting, peace and quiet, and he meets all these creepy women. At the end, there's like this hidden message thing. Yeah, so good. I'm not gonna talk too much about it because again, it's not out yet, but definitely pick this up if you love Alice Feeney or if you are looking for a new release thriller that you might be into. And it's a book about books essentially because he's a writer, so this was a really fun one. I had to change out my battery. This is the 4th video I'm filming today. Bear with me if my energy is low. I'm trying. My camera hates me though. It's about to overheat. So last 2 books. Number 2 was number 1 for months. I read this for my Do Your Worst episode for Sid, and honestly, I cannot believe so many of my Do Your Worst books ended up on these lists because that was the whole point of that series and it freaking worked. The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. If I knew that this was Addie LaRue coded, I would have read this in January or whenever it came out. I think it did come out in January, but no, I waited until September to read this and oh my god, it was so good. The slow burn romance in this, the atmosphere, the commentary on being a woman, reputation, how society sees you, her willingness to set herself apart from that and live a different life. And there was like a whole plot with like trials and shit that I wasn't really a fan of, but there was this one trope that I love in books that I was not expecting from this one. And oh my god, the ending, I was like, what do you fucking mean? I'll just link my vlog down below because I read some quotes from this. It is everything. I can't wait to reread it because I read this all in one day. Did I have the audiobook? I think I did have the audiobook. I think I used it for half of it because I wanted to try it out physically as much as I could. The writing, stunning. The cover is just so good. This is one of my favorite covers of 2024 for fucking sure. The vibes were there. I was not expecting to love the romance as much as I did. I was swooning, squealing. I have no words anymore. I'm sorry. All right, number one. I already revealed this in a vlog. I'll link the vlogs that I read these as much as I can remember to down below. At least for the top 10. Pictures of You by Emma Gray is my number one best book of 2024. This was not even on my radar until I saw it as a book of the month pick. I had no idea what this was. I looked at it, I was like, oh, there's water involved. Not for me, dude. But then I looked at the synopsis and I was like, oh yeah, second chance romance. There's a mystery. There's memory loss. I'm gonna cry. And then I got it in the mail. Short ass chapters. Okay. It's a 400+ page book. Incredible. It's so well done. Like the way things were revealed. I just never would have picked this up because this cover does not intrigue me at all. I actually kind of hate this cover, but what's inside really hit me in so many ways. There's a toxic relationship in this. So check trigger warnings for this one. Essentially, this girl wakes up after a car accident. Her husband dies. She doesn't even know she has a husband because she thinks she's 16. That changes real quick when she realizes that she is 29. She's living in a world where Uber exists and people remind her of who her parents are, what she does for a living. She has to attend her husband's funeral, who she doesn't even remember. Then at this funeral, she meets this guy who remembers her, who was friends with her, and maybe something else too. He also knew Oliver, her husband. So he reveals things to her slowly but surely, but also lets her put pieces together because he knows people with memory loss, like you can't just overwhelm them with information, you know? You have to ease them in and let them kind of piece it together and figure it out. And she sure does eventually. But the journey to get there and like all these twists, and every chapter keeps you reading because so many of the chapters are like, oh, Drew knows this one thing. Drew for sure knew that. Or like he debates whether to tell her this piece of information or whatever. And then you're like, what are you keeping from her? And then it like flashes back to when they were friends, when they were younger, and it explains the situation. It's just so well crafted, like so well thought out. I was so impressed by this book. I love it. I feel like it's gonna be so underrated because I haven't heard anyone else but Gabby talk about this book. I love it. This is my number one. That is it. Again, if you want to see Joey's top 10, that's gonna be on my Carmilla tier for Patreon, and it should be up already. That would make sense. If you also liked any of these books, let me know. Let me know your number one of the year in the comments down below if you want to. If you made it to the end of this video, let's just put the thumbs up emoji in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to do some self-care. Hope you have a 5-star year, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.